Hey chums, and welcome back to the Kenwood Kids Club, coming to you from Mr. Baker's Cake School. As always, if it's your first time watching one of our videos, don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button, and why not give this video a thumbs up as well so I know you're out there. Now if you fancy baking along with today's recipe, don't forget you can head down to the video description where you will find the full list of ingredients and of course a link to the Kenwood Kids Club website where you'll also find the full written out recipe method as well. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make edible cookie dough, and you're probably thinking, well, isn't all cookie dough edible? And while you can technically eat it physically, you probably shouldn't, and there's a reason why. In fact, there's two reasons why. Normal cookie dough recipes contain egg and they contain flour. And while both of these ingredients are absolutely fine to eat when they're fully cooked, they're not actually supposed to be eaten raw. Now we're quite lucky in this country because actually lots of rules are in place to make sure that our food is safe to eat. So things like eggs, although you shouldn't really eat them raw, aren't really going to do you a lot of harm if you do. So if you have been licking the bowl when you finish baking, don't panic too much. But particularly with flour, the production process of making flour doesn't actually kill any bacteria that might be on it before they turn it into flour. And the only way we do kill it is when we cook it. So if you're eating raw cookie dough or raw cake mix that has got raw flour in it, then actually you could potentially make yourself poorly. But don't worry, because in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can make a cookie dough that is perfectly safe to eat and is perfectly delicious as well. Now hopefully by the time you're watching this, the weather has cooled down a bit, but I'm doing this on Monday and it is very hot today. So just like last week, I do apologise if you can hear some background noise. I've got the windows open and you can probably see I look a bit warm as well. Luckily, this recipe doesn't need the oven to be on for very long, so I'm going to get started so that I can turn my oven off again. And yeah, let's make some cookie dough. Now, as I say, one of the biggest issues with eating raw cookie dough or cake mix is that uncooked flour. So the obvious thing to do to kill any potential bacteria that might be on it is to cook that flour, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So I've got some regular plain flour here, or all-purpose flour for our friends over in the States, and all I'm going to do is pop this onto a baking tray, and I've lined mine with some baking paper just because it makes it a bit easier to get it back off later. And then just using my fingers, because I've washed my hands, I'm going to spread it out nice and evenly and try and break up any big lumpy bits if I can. If you want to help it spread out, you can also just give it a little tap on the worktop, but try and do it quite gently, otherwise your flour might go everywhere. And then this is going to go into a preheated oven at 180 degrees C or 160 fan or gas Mark 4 for around about 5 minutes. Now what that's going to do is heat it up to over 60 degrees, meaning that any potential nasty bacteria will be killed and it will make this flour perfectly safe to eat. So I'm going to pop this in the oven, and while it's in there, we can carry on with the rest of the recipe. Okay, so my flour is in the oven, and the next job is probably very familiar to those of you who have made cookies before, because we're going to cream together some butter. My butter's already very soft, but ideally you want room temperature butter, and some sugar, and I'm using soft light brown sugar today just because, like I said in previous videos, it gives you a slightly nicer, more kind of caramelly flavour to your cookies, or in this case your cookie dough. Then I'm using my K-Mix stand mixer, and it's got that creaming beater attached that, as you all know, is my favourite, and I'm just going to turn this on a medium speed until it's nice and smooth and light and fluffy. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, and so my flour should be ready. And that means I can turn the oven off, which I'm very excited about. Now you'll notice it doesn't look particularly different. It might have some cracks in it where it's dried a little bit, but it won't have changed colour because there's nothing in flour to caramelise, which means it won't go brown like things normally do when we cook them in the oven. But So long as it's reached a temperature over 60 degrees, then this is safe to use in raw food. Now the best way to check that your flour has reached a temperature over 60 degrees is to use something like this, which is called a probe thermometer, because you can stick it into the ingredients or into the thing you're cooking and you can check that your food that you're cooking has reached the right temperature. Mine is actually closer to 70 degrees, so it's definitely gone over 60. And that means that I'm okay to use this in my cookie dough. I'm just going to set it to the side slightly and let it cool down a little bit more. And in the meantime, I can show you what my mixture looks like so far. So hopefully you can see it's gone really pale in colour. It's nice and smooth, and that butter and that sugar have mixed together perfectly. Now into this mixture, I'm going to add some salt, because salt is a really important ingredient whether we're making sweet food or savoury food, because what it will do is enhance all of those other flavours. It will really make them pop. And when I talk about those other flavours, I'm talking about vanilla. We're using some vanilla extract today. And the chocolate that we add later. Once your flour has cooled down a bit, you can use that paper, and that's why I've used the paper, to lift it up very carefully, and then you can pour it straight into the bowl, like that. I did spill a little bit though, but nobody saw it, it's okay. And then I'm just going to turn the mix back on and combine those ingredients together. Now on a cooler day, you might find your mixture ends up quite dry looking, in which case you're looking for something almost like a breadcrumb consistency. But on a warm day like today, where your fat element, your butter, is quite melty, then you might find that you just end up with a really smooth mixture, and that's absolutely fine too. As long as it's fully combined and you can't see any flour, you're ready to add the final ingredient, and that is some milk. I'm going to turn the mixer down to the minimum speed. I'm just going to pour this in, down the side. Then keep that mixer running until that's fully mixed in as well. Now the last ingredient that we're going to add today is the fun one, and that's the filling that we're going to add. I've gone quite traditional, and I've got some dark chocolate chips here, and I've talked before about how dark chocolate is great to go in cookies because it really balances out the really kind of the sweetness of all the sugar that we've added. But if you prefer something a little bit sweeter, you can use some milk chocolate, of course. But why not add some of your favourite chocolate sweets like Smarties, M&Ms, or even Peanut M&Ms? To add those, I'm just going to turn the mixer off, pour them in, and then turn it back on very briefly, just until they're fully mixed through the mixture. And there we go, and I can tell you now, that smell of that vanilla is just really popping out of this mixture. I know that this is going to taste absolutely amazing. So I'm going to grab a spatula as always and just make sure I get all of this mix off the beater because we don't want to waste any. And then using that same spatula, I'm just going to whiz around the bowl and just make sure that everything is fully mixed in and combined. Now again, it's a very warm day today, so my mixture is very, very soft. But what we're going to do in a moment is wrap it up and pop it in the fridge. And actually, I find that this is nicest when you eat it cold from the fridge anyway. So, grab some cling film, like this, and then we're just going to roll a piece out and pop it straight onto the worktop. So I've got a big rectangle there, and then I'm going to use my spatula to scoop up my cookie dough and just plop it straight on top in the middle. Can you see it is very wet and very loose? And again, that's just because it's a really hot day. I think it's about 30 degrees in the kitchen today. Oh. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that cling film and fold it over into a rectangle shape. So we'll fold one side in, we'll fold the other side in over the top, and And then we'll fold in those edges. And I'm not folding it tightly, as I say, I'm making a rectangle. And the reason why I'm doing that is once you've folded it all in and got it nice and stuck down, you can use your hands to squish it out and it will fill up that rectangle. What that would do is just give you a nice even layer of cookie dough so that when you chill it down, it's easy to break off pieces. And then this needs to go in the fridge for a good few hours just until it's nice and solid. So I'm going to go and do that and I'll see you in a little while. And after a couple of hours, you will end up with something that looks like this. Hopefully you can hear that it's nice and solid now. And there are two ways you can enjoy your cookie dough. You can just leave it in the fridge in a slab like this and just break bits off. And if I'm honest, I might already have done that a little bit. It's that tasty. Or the other thing you can do is what I'm going to show you how to do now. Grab yourself a bowl, unwrap your cookie dough, or in my case, what's left of your cookie dough, and then you can just break off little bite-sized pieces and then roll them up into little balls in your hand. Now, I like to do this if I'm planning on putting my cookie dough into something else. So if I was doing something like a cookie dough cheesecake or cookie dough ice cream, this is perfect to use as the cookie dough element in those dishes because again, it's safe to eat without cooking. Or it just looks a little bit nicer if you're making it to share with some friends. You're not just breaking it off a big slab. But if you're just making it to keep in the fridge and have as a little treat every now and then just keep it wrapped in the cling film. And as I say, when you want some, you can just break a little piece off and eat it. Again, because we're using our hands with food, we have to make sure that we have washed them. So don't skip that step. But of course, as always in these videos, we have to give things a taste. What I love about eating it straight from the fridge is it's really nice and firm, so it reminds me of the cookie dough you get in cookie dough ice cream. And the chocolatey bits all through the mixture are really quite crispy. So you get that kind of, that mixture of flavours of the softness of the cookie dough with the crunchiness of that chilled down chocolate. And it's just really sweet and really delicious. But anyway, there you go. That is how to make my edible cookie dough, perfect for just enjoying as a snack on its own, or of course for mixing into other no-bake recipes. Incidentally, if you would like me to share some more recipes using this edible cookie dough, whether the aforementioned cookie dough cheesecake or a cookie dough ice cream or something else entirely, then do feel free to get in touch over on social media. Of course, you'll need to ask your parents' permission to do that. You can contact me at Mr. Baker's Cake School on Facebook and Instagram, or of course, why not contact at Kenwood World over on Instagram as well. We'd love to hear from you. And on that note, if you do decide to have a go at my edible cookie dough recipe, don't forget to share a photo of what you've made on social media, but also over on the Kenwood Kids Club website, which you'll find linked down in the video description. Not only do we love to see what you've been making at home, but also you never know, you might be chosen as our star baker of the month for July, meaning you'd win your very own Kenwood hand mixer and a Kenwood Kids Club goodie bag as well. All that remains is for me to thank you for watching this week's video, and don't forget we upload a brand new cook or bake along video every single Thursday at 4 o'clock. So if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button down there on the right, and of course do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'll be back at the same time next week with a recipe that I'm really looking forward to making and to eating. But until then, as always, take care and happy baking. Bye everyone!